We'd like to thank Congressman Johnson for those remarks. As we move on in the program, we'd like to recognize Mr. Al Paquicchio, the Department of Veterans Affairs. We call it On the Hill, the regional office, Mr. Al Paquicchio. He has a really hard name, so you have to practice it, sometimes over and over. Thank you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule to support our event today. At this time, we're getting ready for our speaker, and we're going to ask that Sergeant Major, United States Army retired, Stan Ashford, interim president. He was the interim president. Now he is the president of the Triple Nickel Parachute Infantry Association, Atlanta, Georgia, for the introduction of our speaker for today. Let's give him a hand.
Good morning. Good morning. What a great day to be a soldier, sailor, airman, marine, or coastie. Hua. Again, I say good morning to all that are assembled here today. Our guest speaker for today's program is Colonel Brent E. Bracewell, Director of Joint Staff, Georgia National Guard. Colonel Promotable Brent E. Bracewell began his duties as Director of the Joint Staff, Georgia National Guard, on 15 October 2011. He serves as the principal advisor to the Adjutant General and is responsible for assisting the AG in formulation, development, and coordination of all programs, policies, and plans that affect the Georgia National Guard, its 11,500 citizens, and 3,500 Air National Guard personnel. As Director of the Joint Staff, Colonel Bracewell is also responsible for domestic operations and stands ready to serve as Joint Dual Status Commander. Colonel Promotable Bracewell is a 1986 distinguished military graduate of the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. He is a rated pilot on the OH-58 Kiowa, the UH-1H Iroquois, the C-12 King Air, and the UH-60 Longbow Black Hawk helicopter. Colonel Bracewell has served over 25 years of active duty service. He served in Desert Storm, in Bosnia as a company commander under intimate danger conditions, and most recent as an aviation battalion commander during combat operations in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, where he commanded an Army Aviation Task Force flying missions throughout Kuwait and southern Iraq. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm DeKalb welcome for Colonel Promotable and soon-to-be Brigadier General Brent E. Bracewell.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Did y'all see that? I hugged the Sergeant Major. We don't do that too much. Got an opportunity to thank you for that very, very warm introduction. I appreciate that. There are so many distinguished people here today. Representative Johnson, thank you so much for being here. COO Ellis, thank you, sir. And Tyncy, and thank you. So what you're doing, Dr. Williams, thank you. Appreciate it so much. Being on the House Armed Services Committee there, Representative Johnson, you ever need any advice, you call me. Thank you so much, sir. It is I will also tell you, too, I got to give a shout-out for the USO. You've done so much for me over my career. You've always been there. Even when I've been to some really bad places, the USO's been there. And I also, for Dr. Stanley in the church, I got to tell you, my wife listens to Dr. Stanley every morning. We do the streaming thing. While she's getting ready in the morning, I get to listen to Dr. Stanley, too. So he is a big part of my life. And, of course, the Veterans Affairs Advisory Board. Wow, what a great team. And, what a super event you put together here. And thank you for making me feel like family. Just as soon as I got here, you made me feel loved. You made me feel like family. I'm just honored to be here. And I would start going around the room, and I'd start trying to remember all of the distinguished guests here, but I can't, and I don't want to do that. And COO Mr. Ellis did such a wonderful job of hitting them all. So, but I will recognize Major General Alexander over here because I know when my bread's buttered. Thank you, sir. I'm kind of used to being the top guy in the room. He walked in, I was like, who invited you? How'd you get here? Although I did share with him that, even when I got generals around, the people that still scare me the most are drill instructors. All I see is that drill instructor hat, and I start checking things on my uniform and looking around, and But it is an honor to be here with my fellow veterans. Do we have any World War II veterans here today? Just hold up your hand. Any World War II? I don't think we do, just looking at the where? Oh, right here? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Appreciate your service, sir. Absolutely outstanding. How about any Korean War vets? Korean War vets, would you stand up? Any Korean War vets? Well, just on their behalf, they're often called the Forgotten War, but I tell you, it's not forgotten by Americans. It's not forgotten by those and their families that served. How about Vietnam vets? Would you stand? I'd like to see the Vietnam vets stand. There we go. The reason why I want to recognize the Vietnam vets is because I get recognized everywhere I go. Probably the kindest thing that ever happened to me was I know I was walking out of Kroger a couple years ago, and a little old lady, I could tell she caught my eye. She was walking with a cane. She wanted to speak to me. She made her way over to me, coming up about right here. She grabbed my sleeve. She looked up in my eyes, and she said, "Thank you for my freedom." And I thought, how kind is that? But I do know that just like the representative was saying here, Representative Johnson, we did not thank the Vietnam vets when they came back home. And I can't imagine deploying to a combat zone, serving your country, and coming back home and being treated less than anything than a hero. You're my hero. The reason why I served today is because just as a child, I'd watch those newsreels at night, and I'd see what was serving, and my uncles went off and served in Vietnam. And that's when I decided I wanted to serve, sitting at their knee, listening to their stories, seeing their pride in serving their country. So to the Vietnam vets, I want to tell you, job well done, and welcome home, my friend, and I appreciate you so very, very much. Thank you so much for doing that for our Vietnam vets. That is outstanding. If you listen to people talk today, I guess it depends on whether you watch Fox or CNN. We're in a pretty bad time, whether it's a recession or a depression. But we've been in bad times before in this country. If you think back to World War II, talking to my World War II veteran over here, at that time our country had came out of a depression. There was no doubt it was a depression. We had people dying and starving. We had Germany out there in Europe that was dominating the continent. We had Japan over in the East and the Pacific that was dominating that area. We were at a hard time. But we came through that hard time, and I'm telling you, we'll come through that hard time again. That was the greatest generation that brought us through that hard time, but I tell you, our veterans today will bring us through that hard time also. I always tell people a lot of times, I say, I love our president, I love our Secretary of the State, but they cannot be the representatives of the United States. There's just so much pomp and circumstance and formality surrounding them. They don't necessarily represent the United States to the country. The person or persons who represents the United States to this world is a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, 18 to 22 years old, is carrying that M16, who's walking through the streets and the hamlets and the villages and the townships of places all over the world. That's who represents the United States. And I'm telling you, you've got the very best representatives in the world. They are absolutely outstanding people. They're going on patrol, they're taking a knee, they're reaching out to the kids, they're taking up time with them, they're passing out candy, they're helping the families get their power back on, their water back on, they're defending them. It's absolutely amazing. And the very kids they're handing candy to, sometimes their parents may be the ones that's getting ready to plan the next IED attack against them. But that's our ambassadors. That's the people that represent the United States. The veterans in this room are those that have represented the United States over time. And I tell you, you can feel good about that because we do have a good representation. I'll tell you, during World War II, 11% of the country served in the military. Think about that, 11% of the population. About 5 years of battle, 11% served. During Vietnam, we had about 10 years of battle there, and 4.9% served in the military. And the current war, 10 years we've been fighting this war, 10 plus now, only 0.49% of the population serves in the military. And I only tell you that because, you know, who's going to representative? Who's going to represent us? Who's going to take care of us? Well, you know, I'm not too worried about that because I got a room full of representatives here, a room full of congressmen, a room full of elected officials that say, hey, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to take care of those soldiers. And I've heard it spoke about this morning, and I appreciate that. You know, I will tell you that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, they're so appreciated around the world. On my first tour to Germany, I was a young second lieutenant right out of University of Georgia, got to Germany. This was 1987, and I remember when I got there, someone right outside our caserne had painted "Yankee Go Home" on a big building there, right outside our caserne. And I was like the only Southerner in my platoon. And I remember I got all my platoon together and I said, "Did y'all see that out there painted on the wall?" And they were like, "Yes, sir, we did. We saw that." And I said, "You see that? They don't even like y'all over here." But I tell you that, and I'm just joking about that when I say that, but I will tell you they absolutely loved us over there. And I'm going to tell you that to tell you this story. It was Christmas Eve, and I remember I was single. I was a single lieutenant, and I was over there by myself. The duties for the day started, winding down. Everyone was leaving. There was a light snow started to fall. Everybody was heading home. I didn't have anywhere to head because I was a single lieutenant. And I remember I said, I'm going to go out here to the gate guard. The 4 soldiers, privates out there in their full battle rattle with their M16. Snow gathering up on top of their helmet. Go stand with them a little while because it's Christmas Eve. And I remember out there, and I stood with him, and I was talking to him and asking him, talking about spending Christmas Eve out there guarding our post. And a German vehicle, civilian vehicle, pulled right up in front of us. And I remember the guy stopped his car, and it was an odd place to stop because when he did, he kind of stopped in the middle of our checkpoint. And, we were always kind of antsy about, explosives and people, ambushing us. And he jumped out of his car and ran around to his trunk and popped his trunk. And I remember I touched the guard beside me like, "Hey, be on the ready." He popped his trunk and immediately reached in there and he grabbed out Christmas bags of goodies. And he brought them over to the 2 gate guards and to me. And in his very broken English, he said, "Thank you for defending my country and thank you for being here." And I thought that taught me so much that Christmas. I was away from my family, didn't have a Christmas tree, didn't have gifts, didn't have a big Christmas dinner, but I got to discover that Christmas what it means to be an American soldier. There was another time I was in Bosnia. And this was on 1995, and I just deployed to Bosnia on the 19th of December. Bosnia was a bad place to be at that time. It was December the 5th when President Clinton had said, "Hey, we're going to go into that country and take this mission over from the UN." And the reason why that was because back in July of that year in a town called Srebrenica, the Serbs had moved in and disarmed the Dutch peacekeepers. And in that town, just that town of Srebrenica, they had taken every male in that town we estimate, to about 10,000 and took them out into the forest and executed them. Every male, father, son, grandfather, and executed them. It was that time that political pressure became so great that they said the United States has to step in and take this mission away from the UN and become not peacekeepers, but peace enforcement. I remember we came into the country. I flew my Black Hawk down from Germany. The United States was not yet in the country, and what we were doing was the French were there, the British were there, the Russians were coming there, and the United States was coming there, and we were just changing from blue hats to the green hats, the hard hats, because we're going to do peace enforcement. We flew the I-4 commander, who was a Navy 4-star. We flew him around all day Christmas Day, took him to the French sector, took him to the British sector. I remember that Christmas dinner, I had MREs standing beside my Black Hawk. That evening, I took him back to Sarajevo. It was a flight of 2 Black Hawks, dropped him off in what used to be the old, now it's bombed out, destroyed Olympic Stadium. We'd always fly kind of low and drop down below the stadium so snipers couldn't shoot at us as we were landing. We dropped him off with his Navy SEAL team, and then it was our duty to get out of the country. We were going back up to Zagreb, Croatia, about an hour and a half flight away because there was nowhere in Bosnia for us to refuel our helicopter and stay for the night. So we were taking off, we're getting out of there, and we got to about what's called the zone of separation where the war used to be, and my helicopter had a mechanical problem. It lost all of its transmission fluid, and you don't fly helicopters when they lose their transmission fluid. Actually, they say you can fly it 30 minutes without transmission fluid, but I don't want to try that because if things once you lose all transmission fluid and all the gears mesh, it just locks up. So the emergency procedures, you put it on the ground right where it's at, right where you're flying, and we landed out in the middle of a field. And I remember we landed there, and I started thinking back everything they told me. They said, "Hey, consider every place mine, so always walk on the pavement." Well, we just landed in the middle of a field. They said, "If you're ever outside, consider snipers always, you're fair game. Snipers are going to be shooting at you or can shoot at you, and consider everyone an enemy because no one's wearing uniforms over there." And I remember thinking, man, these are some strange rules of engagement. But where we landed, there were no homes, and it was kind of forested, and there was no one around, and I thought, man, this is going to be okay. My other helicopter's flying overhead, and it's talking to the big AWACS jet in the sky, and the AWACS says, "Hey, listen, there's no one to come get you guys. Y'all going to have to stay. Or, you're not going to be rescued tonight because there's no Americans in country yet, and you're in the zone of separation." And about that time, my other helicopter, my wingman said, "Hey, I'm running out of gas. If I don't leave now, I ain't getting home." And I remember thinking, I can't leave this $8 million helicopter out here in the middle of the mud by itself. Someone's going to have to stay with it. And I asked my crew that was with me, would someone stay? And sure enough, one guy raised his hand and said, "I'll stay with you." I mean, I could have hugged that guy. I was so happy to see that guy. I was like, "Please, thank you." So anyways, that other helicopter landed. We put everybody on board. Me and this other guy, we decided to stay. That helicopter took off, and I remember it flew over the horizon. And up until that point, I'd felt pretty good because you got this big Black Hawk flying above you, making a lot of noise, providing a lot of top cover. But I remember when it got over the horizon, it got really quiet. And I remember thinking, man, it couldn't get much worse than this. I'm a long way from home. It's Christmas Day. I'm going to have to spend the evening out here with just my crew chief. No one's there that I know of can come get me, and I got to consider everyone enemy. And about that time, but I always know, because I'm a Christian, and I remember thinking, every time life gets bad, God's getting ready to do something big. He's getting ready to do something big. And I kind of smiled inside, saying, well, you must be really getting ready to do something big tonight, because this was getting bad. And sure enough, people started coming down out of the wood line. They had been watching us the whole time. And I remember my crew chief looked at me and said, sir, what do you want to do? And I said, well, we can't let them get down here on the helicopter or they'll compromise our position. I said, you get the door gun out of the helicopter, you get it over here on the ground so we got free range of fire, and I'm going to go up here and stop them. And they had weapons, they had handguns, they weren't wearing uniforms. And I remember I ran up there, I kind of knelt down, and I did that real quick prayer, God, what should I do? You know, they give you a little Beretta pistol with 16 rounds in it. And I think they do that so I can shoot myself 16 times because I'm not that good of a shot with it. Sure enough, not going to make a stand out here with my Beretta. But I remember I did that little prayer, and God said, well, Brent, you're probably the only one on the battlefield today that can take a chance because you know where you're going if you die. And I thought, that's so true. So I took my little Beretta and stuck it back in the holster, and I stopped them. And when I stopped them, they put their weapons away. I could not speak Bosnian. They could not speak English. We could both speak a little bit of German. We're trying to talk to each other. I couldn't really, I could tell they were confused about who I was. Because, you know, we didn't wear American flags and all this stuff on our uniforms. We were wearing a flight suit with all this body armor. And, but I could tell that they were friendly. They put their weapons away. So I took them back down to the Black Hawk. And on the tail of the Black Hawk, in black letters about this high, we don't really advertise it, but we'd have to put it there. It says U.S. Army. And they may not speak English and may not can read English, but they've seen that enough in their life. They knew what that meant. And when they saw U.S. Army on the tail of that helicopter, they started patting me on the back, and they started celebrating, like only Europeans in those Eastern Bloc countries can, celebrating, holding up their hands, smiling, patting me on the back. And that's when I realized that they were so happy because America was there. The American soldier, sailor, airman, Marine had arrived, and they knew the killing was going to stop. And I tell you, that Christmas was truly a Christmas that I didn't have a tree. I didn't have a Christmas dinner. I wasn't with my family. I didn't have any presents, but God gave me the absolute best present I think I've ever gotten on a Christmas because he showed me what being a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine means to the world. And thank you. And I will just tell you that that was just a wonderful gift. And that's what veterans are. That's what they do mean to the world. I'll close here real quick. There's a friend of mine that I had. I don't know if you know this guy. His name is Chuck Dryden, Lieutenant Colonel, retired from the Air Force. And if you don't know Chuck Dryden, Chuck was the Class 2 of the Tuskegee Airmen. And those guys are so cool. When I went through flight school, they were trying to make me pass, and it was hard. And when Chuck went through, they were trying to make him fail. And I can't even imagine, but Chuck passed. And Chuck served in World War II. He flew a P-51 in World War II. And I had Chuck come talk to my soldiers. I got to know him a couple years before he died. And I remember Chuck was talking to us one time, and Chuck said, you know, I was speaking at a high school, and a young lady asked me, she said, sir, why would you serve a country and love a country and devote your life to a country that has treated you so bad and treated your people so bad? And Chuck said, I thought about that. He said, I gave an answer, and it was a good answer. It was a politically correct answer. And he said, but you know, it wasn't my true answer. Because literally, when Chuck, you know, served, had people that died with him, and when Chuck got off the boat, you know, and went down the ramp, it literally said whites this way and coloreds this way. Think about that. And he'd served his country. But Chuck loved his country. Oh, my goodness, did Chuck love this country. You could see it in him. But Chuck said, I went home that night, and he said, I thought, why do I love my country so much? Why do I love this country? And he said, I came up with it. And he said, the reason why I love this country is because America is a country that's willing to change when it recognizes it's doing something wrong. And then he ran down some cases. He said, you think about it. He said, during the Civil War, our country was willing to go to rip itself apart to fight over slavery. He said, we literally lost more people in the Civil War than all wars combined since, just to settle the slavery issue. He said, you think about it too, it wasn't until 1920 it was that women were even allowed to vote. You think about that. Women were not considered smart enough to vote until 1920. But we recognized that was wrong and we changed it. And then he kind of went up through the 60s and talked about the Civil Rights Act and how we were willing to recognize things were wrong and we fixed them. And he said, that's why I love this country, because this country is willing to say, hey, we're doing it wrong and we will fix it. And I thought, wow, that is so true. And that's what makes this country great, is the willingness to stand up and recognize when it's done something wrong. I will tell you something. Soldiers don't deploy because they hate the enemy. Absolutely not. The reason why soldiers deploy is because they love this country. They love what's happening in this room right now. They love what this country stands for, the freedoms it gives them, the freedom it gives America, the citizens, the freedom it gives their family. That's why soldiers deploy. And I'm telling you, we got the absolute greatest military this world's ever known. I don't think we'll ever have a military I don't think this world will ever know a military as great as the United States military. But I'm telling you, the strength of our country does not lie in its military. The strength of our country lies in this room and what's going on in this room. It lies in the families. They say without hope, the soul dies. And it is truly the families that give the soldiers and gives our country hope. And our country has hope. I know we're coming and we're facing hard times, but we don't need to worry. I'm telling you, as long as we got soldiers that's willing to hold up their hand and say, I'll support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance the same, and obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed above me, according to laws and regulations, so help me God. And when they take that oath, they know it means that they'll go anywhere, do anything, lay down their life for their fellow man. As long as we have people willing to do that, our country's in good shape. And people want to tell me, they go, man, you just got to look at the kids today or, whatever. And I'm going, you just need to hang around the kids I need to hang around. You need to hang around the kids from Lithonia High School that came in here and did the color guard today. You just see kids like that and you think, our country's got a pretty good future. Well, anyways, I know it comes at a price. We've had a lot of soldiers. A friend of mine's son was killed in Iraq. And he says he gets asked a lot of times, do you consider it worth it? Your son was killed in Iraq. And he says, I always tell him, it doesn't matter if I think it's worth it. His son's named Mike. Mike thought it was worth it. Mike thought it was worth it, so it's worth it. It doesn't matter what I think. Soldiers think it's worth it. They think this country's worth it. You think it's worth it. Representative Johnson brought up a good point today. We are a country that our military will always work for its elected officials. It'll never be the other way around, and we don't want it to be the other way around. That's what makes our country great, is that no matter how powerful our military is, it will always be subservient to the elected officials. We have a great and wonderful country. I appreciate you, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak to you. I thank you for your presence here today. I thank you for your love of DeKalb County, Atlanta, this United States of America, our state of Georgia, and just God bless you. Thank you very much.
Come on, let's give the Colonel a big DeKalb County hand and hoo-ah!
Oh, please take your seats there. Now, I want to make sure this is clear because I want to make sure that we don't get the Colonel in any trouble. We had a very hard time trying to find something to commemorate this day for him that was under the $20 joint ethics regulation. But I will tell you, fortunately, while I was a little bit under the weather, which is an understatement, in Washington, D.C., General Wayne Hall happened to show me his new book. And from what you're doing, where you're doing at it when it comes to some domestic threats, narco-terrorism, and other things like that, I could speak on that myself. I will just read to you what General Hall wrote in his book for you. To Colonel Promotable Brent Bracewell, I wish you the very best in thinking about this complicated subject, the subject being intelligence. This book presents a system of thought that we've needed for such a long time. Signed, Wayne M. Hall, Brigadier General, U.S. Army, retired.
That's an honor, sir. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, let's just give them one more hand. You know, I was really excited listening. And it's always a pleasure when I'm in the Colonel's presence. I'm so excited that he's getting ready to pin that star on because it is well deserving. He is a humble man. Whenever you meet him, he is the same. So we are so honored to have had you as our speaker today, sir. Again, thank you on behalf of the board and our CEO. All right, we are moving because we're going on our close. But of course, in every event, we must have some presentations, okay? So at this time, we do have honorees, and we're gonna ask that Elder William Harris, the Vice Chairman of our Veterans Affairs Advisory Board, come this time for our presentations to our honorees. Elder Harris.
Good day. Dr. Ambassador Odom, could you step forward, sir? This morning, we'd like to give you a moment that you might want to bring something to us about the In Touch ministry. And then after that, I'll make a presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Dr. Stanley, our CEO, Philip Bowen, and In Touch Ministries, we are thrilled to be here with y'all, and we just appreciate what many of y'all have done over the years, and all of y'all we're here recognizing the same thing as the service to a country. And there's no greater gift than somebody would be willing to lay down their life, and that's what the Bible says. And if Dr. Stanley were here in person, what he would tell you is that we're to fight our battles on our knees, and to trust God for our consequences. And we're so honored to be here. And I wanted to show y'all what we have, through the supporters of In Touch, what we do deploy and put in the hands of chaplains throughout the United States that go around the world. And I was just had the privilege of meeting with some chaplains out towards Bethlehem, Georgia on Saturday that are their unit's going to be deployed. And this device not only contains 35 messages from Dr. Stanley, but also contains the entire New Testament. And so we're thrilled to be able to put these in your hands. So thank you, sir. Thank you for the recognition.
In Touch Ministries is a teaching and outreach ministry which donated 100,000 solar-powered handheld audio devices containing 35 of Dr. Charles Stanley's most powerful sermons, are free of charge through chaplains of the military deployed overseas, fighting depression and suicide. For such unselfish acts provided through the VA, we would like to make a small presentation to you this morning for your unselfish acts of heroism. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Richard Stogner, please, will you step forward? Mr. Stogner, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I'd just like to express my appreciation on behalf of the USO for this honor that's paid to the USO, and I'd just like to say a couple of words about the USO. You may or may not know that the USO of Georgia, I'm chairman of the board of the USO of Georgia, we operate 5 USOs in Georgia. The one we operate at Hartsfield Airport is the busiest USO in the world. We'll serve somewhere between 125 and 130,000 service people and their dependents through that airport. And it is a great operation. We offer a multitude of services out there. For the last several years, we have been the recipient of all the R&R flights and freedom flights coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. They've recently cut that back to 1 flight a day. It used to go here in Dallas, now it only comes to Atlanta. And so every other day we've got 200 to 300 people coming in, and more importantly, we got 200 or 300 people going back. We're also very active in the Wounded Warrior Program, and we also have programs out there that basically provide support services and escort services for servicemen and their families that are in transit to Walter Reed or other medical hospitals. And we also provide support services and escort services for families traveling to Dover, Delaware. And so we have a great operation out there. We're very appreciative of all the work that the veterans have done. And so I just wanted to express my appreciation and the USO's appreciation for the honor. Thank you.
Just a brief word about Mr. Stogner. Right here, sir. Mr. Richard Stogner, Executive Assistant and Chief Operating Officer of DeKalb County. Mr. Stogner, distinguished public service includes many high-profile executive posts. Just to mention a couple, such as his public service in Mayor Maynard Jackson's and Mayor Andy Young's administration. He also oversaw the Hartsfield International Airport Comprehensive Construction Finance Plan. He is currently serving as the chairman of the USO Council in Georgia. Thank you for your service, sir. Once again, thank you for your service, sir. Thank you.
Ooh, let's give our recipients and honorees a hand. It is nothing like coming up that escalator at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport and being a veteran, not in uniform, don't nobody know, but when you get up to the top, you see the USO waving flags and clapping, and sometimes I wanna just holler out, thank you, thank you, thank you, but because I served, and it means so much just to get that hearty welcome, especially depending on what kind of flight you had. Getting off that flight, it is just a warm reception. So thank you, sir. Thank Dr. Stanley for us, and we are just so proud that you provide that service to our veterans. Okay, so let's give everybody a round of applause. I see our past chairman out there, Ray Jones. Thank you. All right, so we are getting ready to end at this time, but I want to recognize the wreath ceremony participants. We have Staff Sergeant Rose from the U.S. Army Atlanta Recruiting, Commander Spence from Navy Recruiting District Atlanta, Staff Sergeant Torres, Recruiting Substation Stone Mountain. At this time, we will have our wreath ceremony, followed by the retiring of the colors, Lithonia Junior ROTC Honor Guard, and benediction by our chairman, Reverend Dr. Wayman Dwayne Williams. Lithonia, JROTC, Junior ROTC Honor Guard for the retiring of our colors. We also want to thank our caterer. He is a veteran in the back, Mr. McFadden. So we want you to please enjoy the refreshments as we prepare to close at this time. Dr. Williams.
Let's turn inward so that we can move outward and serve. God, thank you for the spirit of unity that we hope goes out from this place, and for the example of service by our veterans of all eras. God, give us a yearning and an urging to work together in unity throughout the nation, and especially in our county. Bless one DeKalb. In your name we pray. Amen.
Retrieve the colors.
Outward, turn.